As we've been reporting, former Trump campaign chair Paul Manafort and his associate Rick Gates pleading not guilty to 12 counts, including conspiracy against the U.S., money laundering charges dating back to 2006. Now, Manafort's bail has been set at $10 million, $5 million for Gates. President Trump tweeting about these latest developments, saying, quote, "Sorry, but this is years ago, before Paul Manafort was part of the Trump campaign. Why aren't crooked Hillary and the Dems the focus? Also, there is no collusion. So does he have a point?" Again, the indictment does not mention the terms Russia meddling, Russia collusion, Trump, or the Trump campaign. Let's bring in former Governor Mike Huckabee, and he's a Fox News contributor as well and host of the new TBN talk show, Huckabee. Governor, good to see you.
Well, thanks, Liz. Great to be here, and I'm glad I'm not under indictment today. That's good news for me.
Good news for you, Governor. Governor, why hire a Paul Manafort or Rick Gates or George Papadopoulos in the first place? Why have them anywhere near your campaign?
Well, Paul Manafort made a good choice because he had already worked in the convention management of Gerald Ford, Ronald Reagan, and George H.W. Bush, Bush 41. He understood the process of getting through the convention. It was a logical choice, given that Donald Trump did not have political experience, and he was worried about making sure that some of the other Republicans who didn't like Donald Trump were kept from stealing the nomination from him at the convention. So that's why Paul was brought on. It was a good choice. How would Donald Trump know something that Paul Manafort might have been in? My gosh, if it had been hidden from the IRS and the FBI and all those other people, I don't think Donald Trump would have had any knowledge of it. And I think that's what the president was making his point today in his tweet, is that this happened before Paul Manafort came, had nothing to do with the campaign, nothing to do with Donald Trump. The two things that it reveals: number one, there is real good money in lobbying for foreign governments. And the second thing it reveals, if you do make that kind of money lobbying for foreign governments, it'd probably be pretty smart to pay taxes and report it and register as a foreign lobbyist.
You know, the indictment shows, for now, that Paul Manafort did not commit any crimes on behalf of the Trump campaign. And Senators Dianne Feinstein, James Clapper, even President Jimmy Carter does not think there was collusion. Both Democrats and Republicans got help from Russia, right, in some way. You had the Fusion GPS payments from that law firm that basically had a DNC counsel and a guy who was known in Democrat circles who ran that law firm. I mean, the sad irony and the issue here is that Democrats were just as willing to work with Russians, right, to get information, and they were slicker about it because he used middlemen and hid, for now, their payments. It's coming to the surface now. Go ahead, Governor.
Well, I think you just made it a very important point. I mean, the Perkins Cole law firm got over $12 million from the Hillary campaign. They were the intermediaries to Fusion GPS. They're the ones who created the false dossier that was totally bogus, completely fabricated. But here is a very important point that I hope Mueller is going after. Was that fake dossier a totally false document? Was that the basis for even looking into phone calls of Manafort and other election people, campaign people in the Trump campaign? If it was, then I think somebody's got to answer for having created a false basis of surveillance, because that might get all of these people off the hook if the basis upon which they were surveilled turns out to be utterly phony and bogus and dishonest and illegal.
You know, Governor, we just had Alan Dershowitz on. He was talking about how Robert Mueller is trying to get Manafort, maybe Gates and Papadopoulos to flip, to get information on others in the campaign and go after Trump. But to your point, I mean, the Russians were playing both sides of the political aisle, and the real story is Russian activity on social media poisoning, you know, the voters, you know, thinking about the campaigns. Go ahead.
Well, I think that's true. They play all sides. They're looking at it from their interests, not ours. But there's no indication, no evidence at all, that Russian involvement changed one single person's vote or had any impact on the outcome of the election. And that's very important to keep in mind. And the second thing is, I think Americans need to be a little careful about getting too high and mighty about foreign involvement. The Obama campaign spent several $1 million and sent their best Obama operatives to try to get Benjamin Netanyahu defeated in the prime minister election in Israel. For us to pretend that we don't get involved in foreign elections and we're too pure for that is not just hypocritical, it's laughably off the mark. And I think I hear some people beating their chest about how terrible it is the Russians are trying to get involved, and I agree, it's terrible. But it's also terrible for America and the U.S. government, over several $100,000 of taxpayer money plus several $1 million of private money trying to influence the prime minister election in Israel back in 2014.
That's a really important point you just made. I know we have to go to break. Governor Mark Elias, he's a partner at that law firm that took that money from the DNC and also now the Obama campaign. We're going to get to more on that in a moment. Obama campaign gave this law firm money. DNC Hillary campaign gave this law firm the money. Mark Elias he was a general counsel for the Hillary for America campaign. He's got a long pedigree in Democrat circles. DNC was a counselor there. He worked for John Kerry, Al Franken, on and on. I mean, this is a law firm that was a middleman that was digging up dirt with that fake and refuted with the salacious claims against President Trump. It's been called fake by people on the Republican side. Go ahead, Governor.
Well, Procter & Gamble doesn't have enough soap to make it clean. Let's face it. Politics is a sleazy business, and a lot of sleazy people get involved. And there's some really nasty, dirty stuff that goes on. And that's why I'm saying there's not enough soap in America to wash it off. And it's why a lot of people hate it. And frankly, if the one thing that could come from all of this is maybe just a cleaner approach, that'd be great. But don't bet on it.
Well, we're talking soap and politics with Governor Huckabee. Good to see you, Governor. I love your analogies and metaphors. It's always so visual, and we love it. Please come back soon, and be sure to catch Governor Huckabee on his new talk show, Huckabee, on TBN, airing Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time. Good to see you again, Governor. Come back soon.